Ooh, pretty exciting day, huh? I mean, welcoming a whole new family, you know? And we get to pick a favorite. There are plenty of options to choose from, that's for sure. You're telling me this whole family is diverse with both optical and standard mechanical switches? Promise you let me do the type test. Yeah, we'll see about that. Good people. Today on the review table, we have something very exciting from ASUS. 5 new mechanical switches, the ROG RX and the ROG NX switches that should satisfy your cravings or your desired preference for a gaming switch. We're also told these switches are designed from the ground up while still delivering your fan favorite variants, clicky, tactile, and linear, in some new keyboards that I'm excited to share with you. So in this video, we'll cover how they feel, how they sound, how they are implemented in those keyboards, and do they actually deliver anything new, unique and different versus all the standard mainstream variants of the same configuration, right? So let's begin right after this. The Tower 100 by Thermaltake now comes in new colors, this racing green and turquoise, to add some fun into your next build with a full black interior so the exterior can shine with these fun colors, and the unique on-display layout to showcase your hardware. Check out the new Tower 100 down below. Okay, so first of all, let's cover the ROG RX Optical Switches because they're totally new. They feel pretty awesome. They come in linear, reds, or clicky blues and have 2 very special characteristics. So the first one being the X stabilizer inside the switch to eliminate keystroke wobble, and this 4-corner latch system on the keycaps to further stabilize the entire switch, making it impressively stable, not just during these like finger swipes on top of the keycap, but mainly when you type, as the up and down motion is totally vertical without any wobble whatsoever. So there's this really special consistency in up and down motion regardless of where you press on top of the keycap, and it's especially impressive on the larger keys because the stabilizers, we'll get to them later, but having this additional sort of like stability and concrete structure that holds the keycap in place right in the center for larger keys helps significantly remove that very slight rattle that we normally experience with larger keys and MX stems. Also, because of the different keycap mount, the LEDs therefore centered, giving a much more even illumination throughout, like we've seen with ROG switches in the past. The second special thing, of course, is the optical nature of the switch, so the actuations are instantaneous without any debounce delay and lifespan of up to 100 million clicks, which is pretty standard for an optical keyboard. However, ASUS did put a 10 millisecond break in between each trigger to avoid accidental double clicking. The RX Reds have a 45 gram actuation force, while the RX Blues have a 65 gram tactile force with 4 millimeters of travel and 1.5 millimeter actuation point, making both switches totally suitable for games as neither is too light, so you don't have to worry about the accidental presses of the weight of your fingers. Plus, I'm generally impressed at the smoothness of the linear switch and pleasantly surprised at the clicky nature of the RX Blue. Also, both RX switches have been tuned for 0 actuation versus reset point, so as soon as you go slightly higher than the 1.5 millimeters, it will reset the switch immediately, so it's ready to go. So it's a slight technical benefit over other switches where the reset point is a bit higher than your actuation point, and it gives you a bit of more consistent experience for your really fast fingers. Now, the clicky point on the blue switches has a little softness to it, so it's not as crispy as like Razer Greens or MX Blues, but the added stability is a major value add compared to the rest of the clicky competition. While the RX Reds have really nice density and smoothness to them because of that X stabilizer, but also because as you bottom out, it becomes a bit heavier, so the keycap and the switch can reset very quickly. Now, what you might hear from this setup is a bit of pinging, but I've got to mention this is an early pre-production keyboard that was not lubed at the factory, while all retail units in the future will come with pre-lubed stabs and the switches, so obviously ASUS took steps to improve beyond what I've got here. And by the way, this is the Claymore II keyboard. It's kind of the ideal flagship keyboard to have these switches built in, so not only can you swap the side of the numpad with this simple mechanism, but the keyboard has wireless functionality with a magnetic USB compartment and visible battery level too. It charges with USB-C, has a pass-through port, a full-size wrist rest, and will come with both ABS and PBT keycaps. I am a big fan of double-shot PBT keycaps because they have that additional texture for grip, and of course they hide that glossy feeling that you normally get with ABS. The stabilizers may not sound that great. Fortunately, however, they feel much better than they sound thanks to the added stability of the Switch itself. And then we have the 3 new standard mechanical switches to compete with all the mainstream stuff with NX Red, NX Blue, and NX Brown. The red switches for me aren't anything particularly unique since ASUS is going for that classic red feel that we know from Cherry switches. The main difference is that they have a slightly faster actuation point, but if you felt Cherry red switches on the gaming keyboard before, you'll have a pretty good idea on how these feel too. While the NX Blues have a distinct lighter blue stem and a crispy clicky point, very similar feel to Razer Greens, but heavier. And finally, we have the NX Browns that are ultra tactile indeed. It's almost like using a modern typewriter because of how significant that bump is and how high it is on the travel distance. So it almost gets activated as soon as you apply a little bit of pressure onto the keycap. It's definitely different versus anything else that's available in the bumpy brown space. So the highlight for me here are the RX Optical Switches, both the linear and clickies, because they offer something totally different in the market because of that additional stability of the Switch and the keycap. I'm actually quite surprised the Claymore II keyboard is wireless because as far as I understand, optical switches are always on and therefore consume a lot more power, but having the 40+ hours of battery life, I would say is pretty reasonable. While the NX Brown is a totally different outlier in the entire lineup because of how different they feel in a tactile space. Now the stabs on the NX keyboards are pretty much in line with the rest of the mainstream gaming keyboards. They're nothing special. I would say the stabs on the Claymore II are significantly better versus what we see on the Scope TKL. We also have to remember that it's not just about the switches, since this whole balancing act between stabilizers and the switches is pretty important, so if one misses a step, the other one does too. So ASUS knows this and they need to work together for a perfect typing experience, and they have hinted that they're prepping new models featuring upgraded stab mechanisms in the near future. Perhaps we'll see something at CES, and based on what I've already seen here, this has me very excited. And so that concludes our showcase for the ROG RX and NX switches. Based on the sound test, which one sounded best to your ears? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Check out this other relevant content. Subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next video.